In a small fishing village along the Niger Delta, the people lived a simple but harsh life. They were poor, but the river provided them with bountiful fish, and the surrounding forests gave them crops, herbs, and game to hunt. However, they lived in constant fear of the mermaid who was said to inhabit the depths of the river. Mermaids were powerful supernatural beings in the region's folklore. They were beautiful with the upper body of a woman and the tail of a fish. While some tales spoke of kind mermaids who helped humans, most regarded them as extremely dangerous tricksters who lured people, especially men, to a watery grave with their beauty and enchanting voices. The village was run by a chief named Okafor, who was highly respected. Okafor did his best to maintain harmony and had forbidden anyone from disturbing the river, lest they provoke the mermaid's wrath. But the younger generation was growing impatient with the old superstitions. One of these young hotheads was Ekene, an 18-year-old who was the best fisherman and hunter in the village. Ekene was strong, brave, and defiant. He mocked the tales of mermaids as silly bedtime stories. On this fateful day, Ekene took his canoe out on the river against the chief's orders while his friend Chinedu watched from the shoreline. As Ekene was casting his net into the murky waters, he spotted a ravishingly beautiful woman bathing near the riverbank. He had never seen anyone so exquisite, with flawless cocoa-brown skin, full breasts, and a slim figure. The woman smiled at Ekene, beckoning him closer while playing with her long, flowing hair. Entranced, Ekene started paddling toward her without a second thought. But Chinedu on the shoreline gasped in horror. In the daylight, he could clearly see that she had a long, scaly tail instead of legs. It was the dreaded mermaid. "Ekene, get away from her! It's the mermaid!" Chinedu screamed at the top of his lungs. But it was too late. The mermaid opened her mouth and began singing in unearthly, ethereal tones. Ekene's eyes went glassy, as if in a trance. The mermaid dived under the water and began swimming circles around Ekene's canoe, all while continuing her entrancing song. Chinedu ran back to the village, shouting for help. Soon, most of the men came running armed with spears, nets, and clubs. By this point, Ekene's canoe was spinning wildly in the middle of the river as he flailed about helplessly. The mermaid's circling and singing was causing a whirlpool to form that threatened to capsize the small boat. "Stop this now, you foul creature!" Okafor, the village chief, bellowed. He was a frail but imposing old man. "Return our boy or face our wrath!" Other men threw rocks, spears, and even a net toward the mermaid, but she expertly dodged every projectile while never stopping her spinning dance and beautiful, haunting song. Then Tamunoemi, the village's most skilled hunter, took aim with his musket. The old firearm was collected from a colonial explorer years ago and was their only gunpowder weapon. Tamunoemi's aim was normally perfect, but the spinning vortex caused his shot to go wide, missing the mermaid but blasting through Ekene's boat. Ekene was flung into the churning waters as his canoe splintered into pieces. Within seconds, the helpless young man disappeared under the foaming whirlpool created by the mermaid. She abruptly stopped her song and spinning. There were a few breathless moments of silence, then Ekene's lifeless body floated up, eyes still open and glassy. He had been drowned by the supernatural entity. Furious, Okafor turned to the armed men behind him. "We cannot allow this creature to remain. She has killed one of our own and devours the souls of humans. We must destroy her." The men shouted in agreement and charged toward the water's edge, weapons raised. They hurled everything they had, spears, axes, rocks, at the mermaid. A few projectiles managed to wound her, cutting her arms and torso. Emerald green blood poured from her injuries into the water around her. Seeing she was overpowered, the mermaid turned and began swimming away at incredible speed, her movement propelled by her powerful fishy tail. But Tamunoemi had reloaded his musket. He steadied his aim as best he could on the moving target, then fired. The shot slammed into the mermaid's back, punching a fist-sized hole through her. She desperately tried swimming onward, leaving a trail of green blood, but the wound was too severe. Within moments, she grew still and sank under the river's murky surface. Everyone cheered, believing the creature was finally dead and her torment of their village over. Ekene was given a respectful water burial that night, but their celebration was short-lived. 2 days later, fishermen came back from their morning catch screaming about finding dismembered body parts floating in the river. Severed legs, arms, and even an eyeless head were found. The elders immediately recognized this as the mermaid's work. They theorized she was not killed by the gunshot, but only wounded. And in her rage over being attacked, she was taking revenge on any human defiling her waters by hunting down and killing fishermen. Over the next few days, 5 more fishermen were found dead, torn to pieces with bites taken out of their flesh. No one dared go near the river for fishing or bathing. Mermaid sightings were reported with increasing frequency, both in and out of the water. Some people claim to have seen her beautiful human upper form wandering the riverbanks or forests at night, with the lower fishtail dragging behind her. The situation grew so dire that the villagers made the decision to abandon their ancestral home and flee far inland away from the river. They took only the supplies they could carry and set out in a mournful caravan, leaving many of their possessions behind. They had hoped putting many miles between themselves and the river would appease the mermaids' thirst for vengeance. But on their 3rd night of travel, while camping in the forest, their peace was shattered. A terrifying dolphin-like screech pierced the night air, rousing everyone from their tents and lean-tos. Through the trees they saw the mermaid, her body still covered in green wounds and her face twisted in a demonic snarl. In the pale moonlight, her eyes seemed to glow with an unholy light. "You cannot escape me, humans!" Her voice dripped with malice. "You dared harm me in my realm and spilled my immortal blood. For that you will all perish!" The men quickly armed themselves with whatever weapons they had on hand: spears, knives, hatchets, machetes, but even their numbers seemed no match for the strength of this supernatural creature. The villagers scattered and fled in all directions as the mermaid attacked. Her massive tail allowed her to slither surprisingly quickly through the forest undergrowth, slamming into people and snapping their bones. She used her sharp claws and teeth to rip anyone she grabbed to shreds. Green blood sprayed from her mouth and injuries as she carved a gruesome path through the panicked villagers. At one point, the mermaid zeroed in on Okafor, the frail chief. As she bore down on him, jaws agape, he lifted his walking stick in a feeble attempt at defense. To everyone's shock, the mermaid froze in her tracks, and a golden light shimmered over Okafor for an instant. The chief stared at his staff in disbelief. This is an enchanted staff of the river elders from generations past. I had nearly forgotten." He touched the end to the ground and it glowed brilliantly. Then Okafor bellowed some arcane words in a language long forgotten, and the light intensified into a searing beam. The mermaid howled in agony, blinded and burned by the mystic power over which the mere human had command. Still, she refused to retreat and renewed her attack, but the staff's magic seemed to weaken her considerably. With Okafor distracting her, the remaining villagers combined their efforts and managed to pierce her body with spears and machetes until she finally collapsed to the forest floor, immobile. "Go, while you still can!" Okafor commanded them while maintaining his magic staff toward the wounded mermaid. "Get as far away from this place as possible. She is too powerful for us." Reluctantly, the villagers fled deeper into the wilderness by torchlight, leaving their ancestral homeland behind forever. As they reached the borders of the forest and looked back, they saw plumes of dark smoke rising toward the night sky. The mermaid had managed to break Okafor's spell and burn the village to the ground in retaliation before disappearing back to the river. The villagers wandered for over a year, tired and malnourished, before they finally managed to locate another settlement where they were taken in by friendly strangers. They carried horrible scars, both mental and physical, from their encounters with the mermaid. But they passed down their tale and warnings to younger generations, who told it in turn to their children. So the legend of the vengeful mermaid spirit lived on, a cautionary tale against disrespecting nature's wonders and the old ways. And some claim that on rare nights near freshwater rivers and lakes, if you listen very closely, you can still hear her chilling, enchanting song echoing across the dark waters.